Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope everyone is well. Jazakumullah khairan for joining our second Maktab Behaviour Management Training on a Sunday evening. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Saeed al-Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. So today's training is the second part of our Maktab Behaviour Management Training. The first part we did it last Sunday. For those who were not present in our previous training, you can watch it on our YouTube channel, which is Khayr Academy. I'll just read the slides. If you go to our Khayr Academy YouTube channel, the latest video that was uploaded last week, you can watch our first part of our training, inshallah. Without further ado, I will pass you over to our instructor, Maulana Sadique, inshallah, to start.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا وإن النفس لن تموت حتى تستكمل رزقها فاتقوا الله فأجملوا في الطلب أو كما قال النبي محمد المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدنا علما ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected brothers, sisters, ulama kiram, and respectable, honorable teachers, asatidha kiram, etc. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're able to get together again for another session to learn about teaching better, more effectively, etc., and learn from each other's experience and improve in our teaching ability and skills. And also, Jazakallah khair to everyone for participating on a Sunday, on a weekend, for a second session. So that clearly shows the passion, the desire, the interest of everyone wanting to improve. And whoever tries, whoever has this zeal, sincerity to try and improve, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his sheer mercy and because of this intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the ability to improve more and provide better service of deen. So alhamdulillah, I started by reciting the verse of the Qur'an and a hadith. Last week I quoted the verse كونوا ربانيين بما كنتم تعلمون الكتاب وبما كنتم تدرسون, which was to use as a foundation and a basis of the etiquettes of teaching and explaining the concept and reality of a teacher. The teachers are Rabbaniyun, yu'allimun an-nasa bi-sighari al-ilm. And then also I quoted the hadith and explained the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ana lakum bi manzilatil walid. Again, those hadith as a basis and a foundation for us to refer to in order to understand the concept of a teacher. So today I quoted this verse, trying to prove the concept of class control, class management, behavior management, etc. And as you can see in the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawti an-nabi. O you who believe, do not raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet. وَلَا تَجْهَرُوا لَهُ بِالْقَوْلِ كَجَهْرِ بَعْضِكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ. And do not shout at him, shout his name, like the way you call one another. أَن تَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ, lest your a'mals, your good deeds become nullified and you do not even realize. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَغُضُّونَ أَصْوَاتَهُمْ عِنْدَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ امْتَحَنَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ لِلتَّقْوَىٰ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. Those who lower their voice in front of the Messenger of Allah, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ امْتَحَنَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ, these are the people whose hearts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests for taqwa. So from these we understand the concept of etiquette in class, and the importance of maintaining order, discipline, respect in the class, an order in the class, attention. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam being the teacher for the whole of mankind, Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in being his students, these examples establish the guidelines, the principles, values, etiquettes, etc. for teachers and students until the day of judgment for all nations and all times. And of course, it shows the importance of maintaining order, respect in class, where students should not be shouting out, calling the teacher, sir, sir, miss, miss, and all that stuff, but rather raise your hand with respect, with politeness. When you want to get up, ask permission. And all these things are proven from the Qur'an and Hadith. And also then the Hadith, ala wa inna nafsa. Okay, some of you might be thinking, okay, has that got anything to do with teaching? But, you know, I just thought of that and did some istimbatat al-ba'ida, you know, the minimum relevance, etc. Point I'm trying to istimbat here is from ala harfa tanbih. And harfa tanbih, the purpose is to get attention, focus from your audience and your mukhatab, the people who are listening to you. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use these huruf at-tanbih, etc., in his khutab, in his speeches, etc., to bring attention. So ala wa inna nafsa, like listen carefully, attention. No soul shall die hatta tastakmila rizqaha, until it completes its rizq. So again, it shows the importance of controlling the class, making sure you've got the full attention of all the listeners. And this is what class management is really all about, the concept, you know, to be able to maximize the attention, the focus, the learning ability of the students. Keep them motivated, keep them driven, keep them engaged, keep them busy, push them to the best of their ability, to the maximum potential, and of course keeping order, keeping respect, keeping rules, regulations in place, without distraction, without chaos, and without students getting too excited, making noise, or being too demoralized, demotivated, etc. So it's maintaining and managing this balance in the class. So inshallah, last week we discussed about some of the prerequisites of teaching, fundamental bases and principles of teaching, without which, let alone having good class control, let alone getting good results, even just to come to class and sit and teach becomes a challenge and would become so difficult if those basic etiquettes, basic principles are not met, such as intention, purpose, objective, without which, let alone class management, class control, discipline, just the teaching becomes very difficult. And then the concept of teaching, understanding the concept of teaching, what a teacher means, what are the roles and responsibilities of a teacher, what is a teacher expected to do, these kind of things. If these things are not clear, then nothing is possible. And of course, punctuality, timekeeping is essence and absolutely crucial for anything. So today we'll move on to student-teacher relation. Again, this falls under these basic requisites of teaching, basic principles and values of teaching, without which it doesn't matter how much skills you have and ability you have, it's going to be difficult. Just like a father and parents, in order to good parenting, in order to make them successful in whatever they are doing, unless the basic foundation of behavior and relationship between parents and children is not rectified and is not established, then you cannot achieve anything else. So always, this relationship, and it needs to be balanced. You need to be clear what is the nature of relationship, so that it doesn't exceed the limits. There's no ifrat, tafrit, meaning you go over the top or too relaxed to such an extent you neglect everything. A teacher, a student, they have a very close relationship. They're very close to each other. Both mean so much to each other and play a huge role in each other's lives, just like parents and children. Parents need the children as much as the children need the parents. Children be grateful for all the effort, hard work, etc. The parents are putting in them, and at the same time, and thus they show respect and obedience, loyalty to the parents. And at the same time, the parents value, they love, they appreciate the children, because without which, they're not parents. They don't have that honor of being parent. They don't have the honor and the feeling of having a legacy or leaving behind a legacy, etc. So the parents are also in need of the children when they die, when they become old. Who's gonna take over the legacy? Who's gonna carry on with the legacy? Who's gonna look after them, etc. So they need them as well. So it's a two-way thing. Students be grateful to the teachers, and the teachers also be grateful to the students, because without the students, they will not be teachers, and they will not be able to leave behind their legacy, etc. So there needs to be love and respect between teachers and student. And the teachers need to show that within limits, of course, whilst maintaining respect, whilst maintaining professionalism. The teacher should show the value that the students mean something to them, remind them of their values, of their importance. And then impartiality, to show and establish to the student that the teacher is neutral, teacher is impartial, teacher has no conflict of interest there, teacher has no other personal motives there, teacher is not there to favor anyone, etc. And kids and children, this is one thing that really affects them. As soon as they see any form of favoritism sort of thing, where so and so is the teacher's pet, and the teacher always lets them off, always gives them extra privileges. Likewise, when it comes to asking questions, teacher only asks them or gives them the first chance to speak or ask a question, and things like this kind of favoritism. As soon as students notice these things, they start playing up, and you're not going to even realize. They're not going to come and tell you, these kind of things. They're not going to have the time in class. and neither are they going to, as soon as they go home, they get busy with other things, and they don't always talk about these things until one day the teacher comes and says, hey, or the parents come and say, why are you not learning? Why are you falling behind? And this and that. Then eventually they, spill the beans and they say all sorts of things. And many times the teachers are not even aware, like, oh gosh, is this what was happening in class, etc. And of course, the teachers should trust, the students should trust the teachers. And the teachers should make them believe that whatever they do, it's a trust. If they need to express anything, any concern they have, any issues they have, etc., difficulties, the teacher will keep it as a trust. And they should build that trust, basically. And of course, the students should also admire the teachers. They should respect the teachers for being experts in their field. And this is something that teachers should also try to establish. So all these things, teachers as adults should try to maintain. You should communicate in a way, you should behave in a way that these things are always maintained, without which, like I said, it's not going to be very effective. And not to embarrass any students, shouldn't disgrace them, shouldn't shame them in a way that, they start hating the teachers, or, they feel ashamed to come to school, madrasa, come to school anymore. Yes, sometimes you need to call out, you do need to shout out, you do need to, say, all right, get out of the class, or something along those lines, or why do you talk so much for? You need to say it sometimes, okay? If, and sometimes students will be a bit disappointed. But just because, they're going to be a bit embarrassed, you don't even call the name out. You don't even, tell them to get out the class or go in the corner or something along those lines, or stand up, or how many times do I have to tell you something, or something along those lines, doesn't mean that you, especially ones who need to be, put down a little bit in their places because they're too loud, because they're always trying to get attention, and they just, they're making funny comments all the time, and they don't feel embarrassed at all, So sometimes these, you need to tell them, stop talking, you talk too much, okay? I've told you 3 times. You should be confident where you need to tell them off for any bad behavior, any disruption, etc. And at that time, if they're going to feel embarrassed, that's a bit too tough. If you don't like getting embarrassed, or your name being called out, or you being told off, or being told to, stand up or go to the corner, then you simply behave. You simply don't try to get their attention and be the smart aleck of the class, and, always distract the class and all that stuff. So again, there needs to be that balance. You don't, embarrass their, any personal fault that they have about how they look, about their specs, about their hair, about, their color, or any other, natural, qualities or features that they may have. Speaking difficulties, learning difficulties, or things like that, basically, which will really hurt them, which is not their fault, etc. But whilst disciplining them, whilst putting them in their place, because of them trying to outsmart the teacher all the time, and not give anybody else a chance, always talking, you tell them, right, you're talking too much, give somebody else a chance, no more talking. They feel embarrassed about that. It's too tough. So like this, basically, you need to keep the balance, but at the same time, of course, you have to try to be conscious of not, overdoing it, or hurting them, or sort of thing. But where needs, it should be. Likewise, you should not offend them and stuff like that. So, and I'm sure, these things, sometimes they happen. Some people, they make fun out of their culture, or you people are like that, you people are like that. And, some teachers, they do find it a bit funny and talking about these things, or, where are you from? And, especially in a class, you have different ethnicities. And I've noticed a lot of the times, teachers like to crack jokes about these things, and they don't realize not everybody thinks the same, and not everybody is born in the same era, same community, same culture. I mean, we were born in a one era where things were totally different. And now these kind of things, if you say to someone, let alone being offended, it's a crime, you know. And likewise, when we were kids, teachers, you know, things that, you know, parents, they used to hear, the teachers used to hear at schools, or the, you know, government, or state schools, private schools, you know, right until we were kids, you know, they still had this system where the supervisor, the head teacher, was able to discipline and hit the students, and these kind of things. Parents were obviously were allowed to hit and all that stuff. And nowadays, let alone, you know, these things, offending someone, it's illegal. Likewise, kind of jokes that when we were kids, everybody used to crack amongst one another, amongst friends, you know, whether it was based on race and ethnicity, he was just taking it as a joke. But nowadays, it's going to be illegal. So you know, teachers need to be conscious and be aware of this sensitivity. And just because, you know, you were born at a particular time, you were born in a particular society, community, doesn't mean that everyone is going to take it in the same way. You have to, you know, adapt to the time and circumstances, etc. So yeah, so these things as well, being very cautious. Once you offend the, you know, students, again, they will play up. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to always try to do things opposite to you. And of course, you know, lots of other complications. Entertaining the students as well. You know, the teacher needs to maintain that balance, not always be serious, not always be too entertaining, too you know, friendly, humorous all the time, that he ends up becoming like a clown, like a joke, and it's all about having a laugh. You know, there needs to be that balance. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when it was time for seriousness, he was serious. When it was a social gathering, just a friendly gathering over a meal, he would talk about food. He would talk about, you know, what they used to like talking about, you know, and he was to laugh at the jokes, at the humors, stuff like that. At times, he would also make them laugh, but most of the time, he was focused, he was serious, he was, you know, concerned, and it was most of the time serious matter. But there needs to be that balance. So occasionally, the teacher also needs to try and entertain and lighten up the students, especially if you see that, you know, they are working hard, they are concentrating, they've been behaving well, you know, they listen, they respect, then the teacher should, you know, think of ways humorously, or comments and jokes, and, you know, occasionally that keeps it going, and it builds a better relationship. And also combining discipline with love. Whenever you discipline the students, etc., they should know, whichever student that you're disciplining, if there are some difficult students, you know, they've got some behavior issues, they've got some, you know, attitude issues, and obviously, end of the day, you know, you should never ever take these things personally, and you should never ever, you know, judge a child. Doesn't matter how disrespectful he may be to you. End of the day, a kid is a kid. If they're, you know, nabalir, young kids, then, you know, come on, they're masoom, you know, inside, even if they swear at you, you know, they're kids, end of the day. You know, it's not their fault. And they're still masoom, they're not sinful, they're not going to be held accountable for, you know, swearing at a teacher or hitting a teacher or something along those lines. They're kids, they're nabalir. End of the day, you don't take these things personal. You know, you should understand, and they're kids, they're going to be forgiven, and there's always a lot of factors behind it. Either, you know, they've got issues at home, they're watching wrong things, they're not being monitored, supervised, they've got wrong friends at school. Lots of factors are playing. So you should be concerned, you should be sympathetic, rather than, you know, feeling hateful, having vengeance. These are things are absolutely, you know, unacceptable, out of the question. It should be purely for the best interest of the students. young kids, nabaligh, of course, they are sinless, etc. And even if they say something silly, back in your head, you should be like, okay, laugh it off or something along those lines. And even if you do find it funny and you think, okay, that guy's crazy, but obviously you maintain that professionalism and you discipline them, and obviously you don't show that you're finding it funny or anything like that, and you say, how dare you say that, or no, you're not allowed to say these kind of things, sort of thing, or I'm going to speak to you after. You maintain that. But my point is, never take it personal. Doesn't matter what they say to you, what they do, you should never ever take personal. You should not start labeling kids and judging them. This is good student, this is bad student. No, that's what they're here for. It's up to you to make them good students. If you're not gonna do your job, then of course they're going to be bad. And whatever bad habits they're having, it's because of other people failing to fulfill their responsibility in the best possible way. So you should always think like that and not blame the innocent child. Yes, once they're teenager, they become baligh, etc., your approach is to change. Your attitude towards them, the way you talk to them, be extra sensitive if it's a boy and a girl. Obviously, when they're younger, little girl, she's not going to be shy to come and shake hands or anything like that. She will just come and sit next to you, sort of thing. It's a different matter if they're 6 years old, 7 years old, 5 years old. It's a different matter. As soon as they reach the age of 12, 13, you need to also respect that as well. You need to keep the distance. And the way you talk to them needs to be a lot more monitored, a lot more conscious, a lot more respectful, etc. And to start treating them like adults. And of course, if they show some kind of disrespect, etc., then obviously it shouldn't be taken as lightly as it should or would if he was a young 7, 8, 9 years old kids. And of course, then at that time, disrespect towards the teachers, etc., should not be tolerated so easily, and more disciplinary steps should be taken. They should be, and still at the end of the day, they're your students. They're still teenagers, and your objective should be to try and educate them, guide them, etc. So point is here is basically whenever you are disciplining any students, whether it's young children, whether it's teenagers, whether it's adults, and obviously grown-up adults, you don't discipline them anyway, right? You leave them to if they're not respectful and they're not thinking, you simply expel them and make this is not it's not acceptable here. You're a grown-up adult and it's not acceptable. You want to come here and enroll here, you need to abide by the rules and regulations, otherwise simply the door's open. You don't have the responsibility of nurturing them, mentoring them, and disciplining them, etc. Up to teenagers, you have that responsibility, to try and discipline them, to try and mold them. But again, you must differentiate between the age and all that, gender and all that stuff. And my point here is, when you are disciplining them, always students should know that this is purely because of this particular issue, this particular attitude they have, either talking back, either being rude, or making too much noise, or whether it's a punctuality issue or cheating or whatever it may be. Just address that issue, and they should know that other than that, outside the class, if I'm ever in need of anything, the teacher he's not going to judge me, he's not going to hate me, and he's not going to spread rumors about me to anybody else. He's going to keep whatever I do in class, whatever I say in class, confidential, and things like that. Or as soon as it's break time and we're having a game together, he's not going to, take his grudge out on me. They should know that kind of things, that it's purely thinking. Taking assistance from students, etc. Again, you should be careful who you seeking assistance from. Some parents don't like it. Some students don't like it. Some students do like it. Some parents do like it. Some parents do want, their students, their children to help and assist and serve the teachers. So you need to be conscious about these things. And those students who do appreciate it, only ask them. And sometimes it's good, you know, can you go get me a glass of water? Can you please grab the pen for me, or go get this from the office? You know, responsible students. If a student who doesn't even behave in class, they're always, you know, trying to bend the rules and take advantage in class, you're going to send them out. You're going to send them, you know, of course, they're probably going to do a runner or whatever. So obviously you choose responsible students and try to give them a chance as well. That does, you know, build that sense of responsibility and all that stuff. And of course, showing sympathy whenever you have the chance to show sympathy, try to show sympathy, try to take advantage of these opportunities. Like when the students are saying, sir, I've got a headache, or sir, I'm not feeling well, you know, rather than, oh, every single day you got a headache, oh, go away, or I'm busy now, or something like that, or it's nothing. You know, show some sympathy, you know, at least, you know, say, you know, go have a glass of water. Okay, you go and rest for a little while, go, you don't have to read for a little while, or go put your head and lie down on the, you know, put your head on the desk or something and have some rest, or things along those lines, or, you know, show some sympathy. If, you know, if it's something more serious, take action, send them to the staff room, to the whoever the, you know, assistant is, call the parents, but don't ignore it. Basically, you need to show sympathy, unless, yes, unless you have sufficient reason that, you know, this is pure joke, because a minute ago they were all happy, shouting, screaming, and now all of a sudden it's sabak time and now they're pretending they're unwell. And then every day you see that it happened a number of times, and as soon as the lesson is over, they're live and kicking it. It's a different matter. Then obviously you need to deal with these issues. Teachers as role models. We'll move on to the next slide. You know, teachers as role models. That's something I'm not going to go through all of it, but we all know what kind of role models you need to be, and we all, you know, we should try to be role models in all sorts of qualities, in terms of academic aspects. You know, show the love for reading, show the love for learning, show the etiquettes of, you know, learning. If the students sometimes tell you something, inform you about something, welcome it, appreciate it. You know, sometimes you're not sure about something as well. There will be certain students that they will know something more than you. Doesn't matter how young they are, you know, there's always someone that would know more than you. Either it's a language issue thing, or if it's a culture thing, or it's a religion thing, or these kind of things. It's a food thing, you know, doesn't matter how young they are, you know, show them this etiquette that you can ask them. And when they tell you something, you're grateful as well. So this also shows this ability of questioning, of asking politely with respect, and then welcoming and appreciating anybody that teaches you something, and also show you know, your academic capabilities and abilities and all that stuff, whatever you're good at. So they will also appreciate that. They will admire you. Or the teacher has very good qiraat, the teacher has very good nasheed, the teacher has very smart, very good answers, etc. So these are in terms of academic aspect, and most importantly, character, qualities, kindness, respect, love, bravery, generosity, you know, impartiality, and all these things. Students are not going to understand these definitions. What does it mean by impartiality? What does it mean by respect? What does it mean by courage? You know, they're not going to understand these theories. But when you show them, you know, practically, you know, practically your courage, practically your humbleness, then they will, you know, that will become a life lesson for the rest of their life. Okay, so bear that in mind, inshallah. Now moving on, different teaching settings. So like I said, for class control, etc., it's extremely important that you understand the different scenarios and settings. If you cannot differentiate and distinguish and adapt based on the different settings and scenarios and situations, then, you know, frankly, unfortunately, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to teach and have a good grasp of the class and teaching. You see a lot of the times, a lot of teachers, they have that same system. They don't want to adapt. regardless of whether they're teaching young children or old children, whether it's Islamic studies or whether it's Qaida, Qur'an, etc. So, here I've just basically mentioned six settings basically in terms of on-site. You've got one-to-one teaching, which has this one particular system. A lot of the times, you get teachers, okay, do you have any teaching experience? Yeah, I've got lots of 10 years of teaching experience. Yeah, I can teach in a class, etc. And then you realize, okay, the teaching experience was just tuitioning, which was on just one-to-one basis, one-to-one basis in someone's houses, your own children, and then coming to a whole classroom with 15, 20 students, all sorts of backgrounds, no parents are there. It's a totally, different ball game, world of a difference. And of course, the approach and all that needs to be different. Normally when you are teaching one-to-one, you'll be like sitting next to each other. Okay, here is this, and constantly listening and helping that one child all the way for the whole 1 hour, whatever. But when you're teaching in a class, you can't do that. You can't be just listening to one student at a time and just focusing, putting your head down. As soon as you got your head down for a few minutes, before you know it, there's going to be a full party going on, on the other side of the class, or, a Royal Rumble going on. And obviously, it depends on the teacher, how often they do it, and how, the student, they get to realize how much they can take advantage of the teacher. Kids are so smart. They're very observant. And they observe and they identify people so well. Little kids as well, they just have that kind of natural instinct, sort of thing. And yeah, they do. They try to understand, and they always try to test you, to see how you are, how you react. They'll make funny comments. They'll show a bit of grumpiness. They'll show a bit of stubbornness. Occasionally, bit by bit, see how you react. If they see that, okay, ooh, this guy's tough, you can't really, take advantage of him, you can't really take him for a ride, then they set their limits as well. And it's like that. They just like to take advantage, especially some kids, I just, to them, everything's a toy. Life is a game. It's all about fun. If they see you being too easy, then they will make fun of you. They will treat you like a game. You literally become a game for them. They will come to school class just to tease you, to see you getting a fit, to see you shouting, screaming, or whatever, and they get a thrill out of, teasing you. And a lot of, kids, they do that. So, you need to keep your head up all the time. You need to make that very clear that, you're not going to be so easy to be taken for a ride, the full game and everything. So you got one-to-one teaching, different scenario. In a classroom, this is a scenario. Then if you've got a full conference, a lecture, that's a different scenario. You can't be using you're a lecturer, yeah, that's fine. You're a Shaykh al Hadith, that's fine. When you're teaching Alimiyyah, Bukhari students, yeah, you take a different approach. You become a lecturer, a muqarrir, and, whatever. University lecturer, at that time, you exercise your lecturing skills and all that stuff. But in the classroom, you cannot use that. You have to engage with the kids. You have to move with the flow, along with them. If they're being, slow, then you need to slow down. And if they're getting bored, you need to change your style. You need to entertain, sort of thing. Likewise, if they're making noise, you need to raise your voice. You need to stop your lecture, and you need to deal with the students. It's not, and stuff like that. You need to change the whole activity sometimes, because you're starting a lesson, for example, whatever it may be about Nahwa, Sarf, or the rules of Tajweed, for example, and you see students are just not concentrating. It's just one of those bad days. It might be school holidays, or there might be another, a match going on or something, and they just didn't want to come to madrasa today. So you must be able to adjust. You can't just be the muhaddis and Shaykh al Hadith at that time. And then when you're teaching online, it's a different ball game. You need to take advantage of the online system and all that stuff, and so we're going to skip all that anyway. Some advantages of online and on-site. And then when you're teaching online, I'm sure a lot of people are online teachers as well. Most of the class control, disciplining, class management, basic fundamentals, as I mentioned before, applies to online teaching and on-site teaching, both the same. But then when it comes to online, you've got a few other extra features, such as checking the security, making sure, the security settings are set up, letting random people come in, they're always muted, sort of thing. You are made sure you claim host, things like that, letting the students randomly share screen and take advantage of muting and unmuting, sort of thing. And that's one of the best ways to, control, take advantage of the waiting room, sort of thing. If use it as a punishment, as a timeout, sort of thing. And then when you're teaching online as well, online class, if we move on to online class management. So when you're teaching online, then some of the basic principle and guidelines and tips in order to keep the class focused, etc. You must be very strict, making sure students got their cameras on all the time. As soon as they get the habit of turning the camera off, then another student will turn his camera off, and that's it. They're not going to be reading, etc. They're probably going to another room playing. You're not going to have a clue. And then secondly, making the sitting position clear, where you can actually see what they're doing, what's in their hand, and things like that. If they're just, got their head showing like, annoying orange, those fruits, they just have little faces. They only showing their face like, a little orange. Then you don't see what's happening under the table, what they're doing with their hand, and they might be playing a game. You must make sure that they're nicely clear and visible, etc. And get them to use the digital hand, raise the finger. That's a great way of communicating, great way of engaging with the students without them having to unmute themselves and say, shout out, sir, miss, and all that stuff. All right, moving on, different aspects of teaching. We covered that basically, last week, different aspects of the whole teaching system, right from administration, from lesson planning, engaging with the parents and homework and, activities and, of course, class control. And moving on, overview of the class management. Last week, we discussed, as I mentioned earlier, those prerequisites of teaching and fundamental basic essence and qualities every teacher needs in order to be able to perform anything properly. And at the end, we gave a little overview of class management. What does class management mean? And I'm sure, from today's lecture as well, you're getting a lot more idea, because I did touch on a few aspects of, controlling the class, disciplining the students and all that stuff here and there. So you already got, a bit of a heads up of what I mean, sort of thing. This thing that we discussed in terms of what does class control, class management mean. It means basically to be able to keep, to deal with everything that happens in the class, basically. Apart from the administration, apart from lesson planning and things like that, during that time, the students are there with you, how the relationship, how the communication, how the dealing is between the teacher and the students, between the students among themselves, being able to have a good control and hang of everything that goes on the classroom during that time. All comes under class control, class management, meaning you're managing the entire class for that period of time. And be able to keep the first and foremost, keep the class safe, free from hazards, free from risk, free from distraction, and be able to keep the students focused, keep the students engaged, keep the students attentive, entertained, and these kind of things. So in that way, you will get a maximum benefit. And the example of class control I gave last week is like, having a remote. You should be able to adjust when and how you want, what kind of activities you want to do, when to have a joke with them, when to have a party with them, when to have a serious lesson with them, sort of thing. And it's like, for example, you've got a wild horse. Unless you can control that horse, let's move on to overview of class management. Unless you've got a wild horse, they have so much potential. Wild horses have so much potential to be race horses, battle horses, and all sorts of things. But until you're able to tame them and have control of them, there's nothing you can do. There's not much benefit you can have from the horse other than just watch them running around. So that's the concept of students, right? Teacher come in and say, oh, the students don't listen to me. Oh, these students are so rowdy and so talkative, so disrespectful. No, it's not good enough. You're the expert. These are the kids. You have to, yes, no one's saying overnight change them, but you have to have a target, set plan sort of thing. Work on this area first, then that area. But eventually, you know that it's your responsibility and you must be able to get hold of the rein, basically. Just like a wild horse, yes, first it comes, it's going to be so aggressive, etc. It's not going to let you sit on it. So you have to get the cowboy will sit on it. It will, show who's the boss, sort of thing. And then gradually get into the habit of when you pull this way, it goes left, and you pull that way, it means go right, and then you pull back, it means stop, or when you kick it. Like this, you have to get them adapted to the system. But in terms of concept-wise, you should understand that sometimes you should stop the teaching. Teaching is not important if they are not concentrating, if they don't know the basic manners, if they don't know the basic etiquettes and respect. What's the point of teaching, about other planets and, anything and everything, unless, they know basic etiquette, basic respect. And like I said, unless there's order, there's control in class, you might be talking away, teaching, you might be showing a presentation, but they're not listening, they're not bothered. They don't have any conscious of any discipline, any stuff like that. So this is why sometimes you need to stop the lesson, right? Okay, today we're just going to learn how to stay quiet, right? Today we're going to learn how to line up in class, break time. When it's break time, you should not be running around longer than how long the break is. As soon as you say, right, break's over, stop what you're doing, no talking, right, it's home time, line up. You should straight away put your things away, line up. And if at that time you see kids are running around, they're chasing one another, or they're talking, right, everybody sit back down, no one's going to go home on time. Parents, sorry, can you wait a little bit longer, please? We need to train the students how to line up quiet. You need to, put your foot on it, not compromise. Rules are rules, guidelines are guidelines. You need to have that kind of firm approach. If you have that firm approach, they will know. Like I said at the beginning, the kids, they always test you. They always see how you are. To them, everything's a game. The life is all just fun. So wherever, however, if they come to the masjid, they will run around. If they go to school, they'll play all day. They don't want to care whether you're learning anything or not. Same with they see you as a toy as well, as a apparatus. If you're a young baby, they will jump on your shoulder. They're gonna, your belly as a, bouncy castle. You're a toy to them. So that's even once they get a little bit older, it's all about a laugh. So you need to keep the principle and the position strong and clear and not compromise, sort of thing. Same in class, basically, if they're talking, if they're speaking out, etc. And at the same time as well, just as talking is difficult, someone who doesn't engage in class, you need to also keep an eye on those students as well. Someone who is slow at learning, you need to also keep a focus on that. A lot of times, only the good students like me, sir, I know they're always doing all the talking. When it comes to coming and saying your sabak, the good students are always, miss, can I come and say it? And the other ones who are not so quick at learning, you know, days and weeks goes past. Teacher doesn't even realize, you know, that they haven't said the sabak or things like that, or they're on the same sabak for the whole week. So teacher needs to be on top of it. You know, you can't expect the little kids or even students. Students are students. They're just going to want to take advantage. They're coming here for a laugh. Yeah, that's the bitter reality. Unless, you know, they're adults, it's a different matter. But teenagers, up to teenagers, most of them, they come for a laugh, for also other ulterior motives, everything else apart from actually learning. You know, illa mashallah, illa mashallah. But generally speaking, up to teenagers, their main focus is entertainment, having fun and all that stuff. So young kids, if they're so quiet, you need to, you know, ask them first in class, ask them. The ones who are slow, get them to repeat after you a few times. Give them more attention. So when you're doing some group reading together, try to focus on the slower students. When you know that the slower students have learned it, then automatically the, you know, quicker learners and more, you know, smarter students will have automatically learned it. And then, you know, randomly choose a few here and there, ask a few questions. And like this, basically, try to balance and keep everybody learning, keep everybody in the loop, sort of thing, rather than neglecting either side. Sometimes we have that extreme, you know, some teachers, they just give focus to the good students, you know, listen to them first, call them first, ask them questions, etc. And either the naughty students, the slow students, they're neglected. Some other times we see teachers are too focused, too concerned with dealing with the slow students or the naughty students, you know, the disruptive students, sort of thing, that it just ruins the whole class. All day they're shouting out their name 100 times in it. How can you be bothered to, you know, repeat the same thing? All right, don't talk, be quiet 50 times. You know, 3 times is too many. If you have to call a student's name out 3 times in a class, that's too many. You need to start escalating the disciplinary procedures. They should know that. You know, my name's been first time. You should be just looking at them. They should get the hint. All right, I'm in the radar now. You know, I've been caught. There's going to be trouble. They should know that. But if they know, okay, after looking there, you're just going to carry on, and then all you're going to do is just call their name out, they're just going to have a laugh out of that, you know. So like this, controlling is extremely important. And some of the key features, like I said, mentioned, is establishing the respect, your presence, showing that confidence in the class, and then being able to assess the situation, etc. So I think we'll stop here for today. And I think if anybody's got any questions and stuff like that, either you can write on the message, or maybe, you know, raise your virtual hand, and the admin will sort of maybe unmute you, and then you can have some question. And what we'll do is basically, so the session's more or less over. Inshallah, next lesson we'll go through the remaining slides from 20 to, you know, about 30. Last couple of slides are, you know, some of them we're going to skip it anyway. So inshallah, next session we will conclude all the slides. So yeah, inshallah, if anybody's got any questions, any particular specific scenarios, particular issues they're personally having, you know, you can share with us, and yeah, sort of thing.
Yes, you can share. You can ask on the chat option. I've left it open. We've got one question, Sheikh. Brother Imran asked, are there any practical examples of how to demonstrate and show love, respect, value in class? That is an open question. If you can just give an example of how you can show love, respect, and value in class.
Love, you know, occasionally give them some gifts in class. Obviously, nothing should be done privately, separately, etc. In class, give them gifts, give them little treats. Shows generosity at times. Okay, you guys didn't pass your exam, or you didn't do your work. occasionally, but today, out of sympathy, out of love, I will let you off. Like this, try to take this kind of advantage whenever, wherever, reminding them, showing them that, I care for you, I sympathize for you. Like this. And of course, respect by praising them, whatever good they do. That's a way of showing respect, value. If they need help, give them that time, etc. If they want to speak to you about something, issue they're having, listening attentively. These are some practical, basic examples of how you can show them some love, and of course show respect, show importance, value, and things like that.
We've got another question. What action should be taken if a child has completed all tasks and there's still time remaining? This is for a hifdh class. So if a hifdh class student has given his sabak or parador, what should he do? What task can he be given?
Yeah, so this is something that the students should first of all know, that you're not coming here just for sabak parador. You got the whole Qur'an left. So this should already be a default mentality, a principle in the class, that you're not just here just to simply finish that work and then it's done. Ideally, students should be so motivated that even once they've learned their door, they got the rest of their focus should be the rest of the Quran, right? Learn some extra sabak. Ideally, that's how it should be. Obviously, if not, and until you get that kind of frame, mind frame sort of thing, then depends. If you want to use that as a kind of motivation for other students so that they also finish early, then maybe you can give them some free time, depending on the scenario, the situation. If you've got another safe area under supervision where they can play, they can do some other activities sort of thing, and which will work as a motivation for other students to try and finish early. So you're better off making them just play for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end to get full 1 hour, 2 hour of hardcore work. It's definitely worth it, so it depends on the situation. If you want to encourage others, then let them play at that time, let them do something with a bit more flexibility within certain boundaries, your guidelines, your policies, and all that sort of thing. Or like I said, if you can, depending on circumstances, ideally get them to learn next day sabak, let them go over whatever it was week, sort of thing. Or give them a book to read, give them some Islamic studies to do, some writing to do. Try to be creative, basically. But depending on the circumstances, but ideally, unless you want to use that as a motivation, inspiration for others, that this guy's going home early, or this guy's getting the chance to go play in the play area, sort of thing, then that would work fine. Otherwise, ideally in normal situation, in normal typical madrasa is like, all right, learn next day sabak simply, sort of thing, So ideally they should be learning next day sabak. Yeah, I hope that gives a little bit of idea, sort of thing. So it's not just because, one off occasionally, it's fine, you finished, but every single day someone finishes half an hour early, then, it ends up becoming problematic. They need to know that, you increase the sabak at that time when introduced. If you see that every day, every day for a week, that child is finishing everything by half an hour before everybody else finishes, then that means you need to increase his amount. It's simple as that. That's becoming too easy for them. You need to constantly increase their minimum targets and stuff like that, basically. Keep them busy, basically. Inshallah.
How do we deal with teenagers, 10 to 13-year-old girls that bully around? I've tried the method of telling them to be kind and the qualities of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but still a bit hard. Verbal bullying. What other motivation can the teacher give to the students without scaring them away from madrasa?
What was that again? They have bullying issue?
Yes, the sister's asking that in her class she has some students from the age of 10 to 13-year-old girls. They verbally maybe call each other names, verbal bullying. So that has tried the approach of speaking about how the Prophet told us to conduct ourselves. However, she hasn't seen that approach working, and she wants to try a different method if there's any other methods around, without scaring them away from madrasa, without obviously shouting at them too much, any methods.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So first of all, of course, you've done the first step, which is, the basic and the first and foremost step that you should do for anything, which is address the matter in class, generally, sort of thing. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do that as well. Someone came and said, "Ya Rasulullah, what does the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do?" Aisha radhiyallahu anha said, he does normal thing, and then they said, "We're not gonna break our fast ever. We're gonna pray tahajjud every night." And the Prophet got up and he said in the minbar, "What's wrong with some people?" And they do things that they want me to be consistent with, sort of thing. So he will address the matter generally. So first of all, try to address the matter generally, give them advice and all that stuff. But end of the day, we as grown-up adults, how many things we know is not right, we still do it. How many things we know is so good, so virtuous, we don't do it, we take advantage. So 9-10 years old kids, of course, they're not going to remember these things at all at that moment, and even if they do, they're just going to brush it aside, sort of thing. So after that, yes, you need to speak to them privately. You need to obviously, you need to speak to them privately, explain to them the consequences. Most kids, as soon as you've highlighted them and you've made the steps very clear to them, that majority, 80% of the kids, average kids, soon as you call them out after class and you've given them a clear warning, listen, this is not acceptable at all. I want an apology right now. I need you to, obviously write an apology, promise, say sorry to this person, whatever he is, and promise it's never going to happen again. Otherwise, we're going to tell your parents. Otherwise, and if still doesn't change, if they know that eventually it will happen, 80% of decent kids, they will stop. At least they will stop for a good 6 months. And once it stops for a good 6 months, and then occasionally, then you have to try to start the whole procedure again until, keep it going until they grow up and become. But if after that kind of warning, clear warning, that child just doesn't take it serious at all, then definitely there's a special circumstance. So obviously this is why at schools as well, if a child has serious behavior issues, then they will straight away get their social service involved. They will see, are there issues at home, neglect at home, sort of thing. Does this child have dyslexia? Does this child have learning difficulty? And I see these days at schools, I have a lot of students, me personally, I don't just blindly trust and have full confidence in anyone blindly, unless I know the person specifically. I will judge them individually based. But they do a lot of times as well. I've had a lot of students in my class, they're in year 7, year 6 of primary school, and their like reading, writing level is literally just like year 2, year 3. And apparently, they've been diagnosed with learning difficulties and stuff. But then in my class, I see them so smart. They're literally the best in class. And but yes, this one thing for sure, they have serious behavior issue. They try to take you for a ride and all that stuff. Like I said, and I've seen these kids like this. And in madrasa, they're becoming really good in every ways. He's becoming hafiz at a young age. But at school, they're so behind is because teacher, a lot of time they couldn't control them, so just simply referred them to social services. Social services, they checked their houses, they saw there's no other issues of concern because other siblings are fine as well. So all right, let's diagnose this guy with some learning difficulty, and that's it, leave him, sort of thing. But the point is, if you see average child after giving that kind of warning, they just still not taking it serious, then you need to put a red flag, deal them specifically, and try to diagnose, do they have some issues? If it's, like totally, this child is absolutely rebellious, reckless, careless, whatever, that extent, then obviously you're going to have to, expel them. You're going to have to, worst case, take them private tuitioning and all that stuff, because, end of the day, for one child, you're not going to affect the whole system. And that's why they have special needs and all these other facilities at schools, because you can't always keep every child in every school, sort of thing. But normal case, situation like this seems quite mild if you just have a full list of disciplinary guidelines, and every institute should have that as well. For first a verbal warning, explaining, give them a bit of line, give them a bit of detention, missing their break, sort of thing. Like I said, 80-90% of the time it works, and if it doesn't, then you need to get the parents involved, and you need to move. Also, try different methods, move them apart, put some kind of restrictions that if I see you sitting next to this person, talking to this person anymore, coming close to this person in class or whatever, then there will be other sanctions. You need to use these kind of disciplinary steps. But just by thinking that I've explained to them in class, I've given them one warning, it's going to work straight away, it's not always going to work. Yeah, if it's like really one-off occasion, a decent good student might work, but most of the time you need to adopt at least 3-4 steps before they totally stop. I hope that helps and gives a little bit of idea on how to try and escalate things further and how to deal with it, sort of thing.
Jazakallah khair. There was one more final question, but I feel like you have covered the answer in this question. The question was, Assalamu alaikum, what sanctions can we use for bad behavior? I feel like you have covered it in this question. You answered more or less.
Yeah. And inshallah, next week's session, we're going to go more into the disciplinary steps, procedures, and what kind of misbehavior, what kind of reaction you give for that, and how to escalate it depending on the nature and the seriousness of the misbehavior, sort of thing. And like I said, everything needs to be kept in proportion, sort of thing. If you just because someone whispering a little bit, you start shouting at that student, then you are causing more distraction to all the students than that one little student did to anybody. So like this, if you at the same time, if you take things out of proportion, then like this one little girl, 9 years old, okay, 9 years old, maybe kids are kids in their day, just said something to one person, and you end up taking that so serious, like it was like a harassment, some kind of life-threatening situation, and you lose the plot yourself. Yeah, you're gonna frighten the kid away and traumatize the kid. So you end up causing more damage to the child than she or he did to the other student. So obviously everything is to be kept in proportion, sort of thing. But here, inshallah, next week we'll go more into all these disciplinary steps and procedures, and what kind of misbehavior should be tackled with what kind of disciplinary steps and stuff like that, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Maulana, for the informative training and the answers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely and those behind this training. So just a reminder to everyone that our last session will be next week, Sunday, inshallah, where Maulana will go over more examples, inshallah. We'll leave it till there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.